Number 17 right here. There's not a very big, you can't see it very well, but there was a peach tree there. I don't know where it was planted or where it just came up from peach seed or what, but I remember one day Frank Knox and I was always playing together, and we came down, looked out there one day, and there was a hive of bees swarmed in that peach tree. And so we had grand notion of taking a crate and capturing those bees and setting us up a beehive, and that didn't work out very well, because I don't know where Frank Knox got stung, but I got stung a time or two, and I decided I didn't need any honey very bad. That was quite a sight to see. Here you see number 18. You can't see it, but right in the corner of the back door, there was a hole there. And it looked like it had been sawed out of the door, and it was about a 2-inch square. And then you had a screen on the outside, but there was a hole in the door, and it was there whenever we moved in, and Mother kind of talked to Daddy and bugged him and asked him for years to patch that hole. I don't know why, but anyhow, he just that wasn't on his top priority list. So one day, Daddy was out plowing in the field, and Sandra was around on this side of the house, and she screamed bloody murder. And so Mother run around there to see what was going on, and she was deathly afraid of snakes. But anyhow, Sandra, there's a big old rattlesnake around on this side of the house, and so Mother ran and grabbed the hoe and went around there, and she said she just closed her eyes and swung that hoe and just very neatly chopped the head of that big old rattlesnake off. And Daddy was still plowing in the field whenever that transpired, and so anyhow, Mother is kind of a practical joker in a sense, and she said, I'm going to get Daddy I'm going to get Daddy's goat with that hole in the back door and this rattlesnake. So she took that snake, and I can't remember where she put it, on the inside or on the outside. But anyhow, Daddy came home, and the plan was laid, and we all of us kids, we couldn't hardly keep a straight face, and so at the appropriate time, Mother just started screaming bloody murder and said, "Damn her!" I said, "There's a rattlesnake coming in that hole in the back door," and he ran out there and saw it, and he said, "Where's the hole? Where's the hole? Give me the hole! Somebody run and get me the hole!" Well, by the time that happened, we were all just laying down rolling, and he ran out and grabbed the hoe. And whenever he came back and saw all of us laughing, he figured out by then that he was the butt end of a joke. So, but anyhow, at least that got the hole in the door fixed. Number 19, that was a big water tank. The windmill had pumped the water, and it was a huge tank. It was probably 10 feet across and at least 10 feet high, and it held a lot of water. And but ever so often, Daddy would make Ronnie and I get in there and clean it out. Dust and dirt and stuff would get in there, and so we'd let the tank drain out, and we'd get in there and shovel mud and stuff out. And we never did tell the rest of the family. Every time that we did, we'd find at least 1 or 2 dead birds in there. Wonder we hadn't died of something. And remember having to change the leathers on that windmill twice. And then one time it got so the wind wouldn't blow and for such a long period of time that we had to put a pump jack on it and pump water with the pump jack. 20 is a light pole here with a transformer on it. At least the first year and maybe the first 2 years that we lived there on the farm, there was no electricity, no phones, and so, you know, we had a radio, but and it run off of dry cell batteries. But for an ice box, I mean, we had a genuine ice box. So we'd have to go to town and buy ice and put it in the box and to keep things cool with, and there was no well, just no electricity. If we read by, we had coal oil lamps, and so whenever they laid the electric line, that was quite, you know, we just kind of take electricity for granted these days, but if you don't have it, it's kind of something special. And after about a year, I guess, after they laid the electric lines, and they came along and hooked telephone lines up to it, so, you know, it's probably 46 or 47 before we got telephone and electricity out to the farm. Anyhow, here we have 21, and like I say, Frank and Edith Moore lived down the road about a half or 3/4 of a mile, and of course it was all dirt roads out there. There was no paved roads, and so they had 3 boys, Frank Knox, who's my age, and Charles was a year younger, and Mike, he was in the same grade as Dale was in. But anyhow, I used to go down there when we first moved in and spend a lot of time down there, and the reason being is they had some pretty nice toys to play with. And I remember particularly they had what they call a steam shovel, and you could sit on top of it and you could pull these levers and scrape dirt with it and everything. And so I'd go down there every chance I get. Every time I'd talk Mother into letting me go down there, I'd go down and jump on that steam shovel and just play and play and play. And then finally, we always had an assigned time that we had to come home. So I'd come home. Well, anyhow, one day I went down there and started looking for the steam shovel, and I couldn't find it. So finally I asked Frank where it was at, and he said, no. I said, you just come down there and play with the steam shovel. I said, you never play with us. So we just took it apart and threw it in the water tank there. So that was, we were still good friends, but I just didn't get to play with the steam shovel anymore. Anyhow, we were all the time digging foxholes and trying to do different things. And we'd make pipe guns where you'd put water in it and heat up the pipe and try to blow the corks out of the end. And we was always trying to make firecracker guns, and that never worked out. Where the fuse came through the pipe, every time the fuse would burn down to the pipe, and then it'd get ready to burn through the pipe, and the fuse would go out. So, and that was where Frank Knox's mother caught us, Frank Knox and I, trying to smoke grapevines. I think her little brother Charles ratted on us. But anyhow, we spent a lot of time together, and we were good friends, and probably Frank Knox is my best friend, most long-time friend that I've got. Now, right below 21 is 22, and that's right in the edge of the cotton field. And that's the source of a lot of problems. And you have to understand, Ronnie was 4 years older than I was. He was a good bit bigger and is more athletic. And like I say, he liked to, play ball and play baseball and basketball and football and run track and all those sporty events. But one of his favorite pastimes was getting in a clod fight with me. And he was very coy about it. He'd get out here in the field and after he'd just plowed the field, there's a lot of good clods out there. And he'd pick up a clod and he'd be pitching it up in the air and then I'd be out there and I'd walk by and he'd say, "Hey George, catch this," and so he'd throw a clod over to me. And then he'd do that 2 or 3 times. Well, anyhow, then he'd get to where he'd kind of burn it in to me pretty good. He wasn't just pitching it to me. He'd kind of throw it and chunk it at me. Of course, that'd always make me mad, and I never did learn. But in self-defense, any time that I would pick up a clod and throw it back at him, that meant that the war was on, and that was always a pretty big mistake because he could throw harder and faster and straighter than I could, and I don't think I ever won a clod fight with him. And darn old dirt stung pretty good, and you got hit with him. Anyhow, number 23 here. That brought us, that's the shed that Daddy had made in town and hauled it out there and set it out here, and he dug a cesspool out there behind it. Him and Chester dug it by hand. And like I say, we had kind of a makeshift bathtub and a toilet, and we moved the washing machine in there. So that kind of put us up in high cotton with the city folks. In other words, you had indoor plumbing and indoor bath and a laundry room. So that was nice. It beat going to the outhouse because it's north up here, and whenever that wind blew from the north in the wintertime, that was not you had to go to the bathroom pretty bad to go out there and to that outhouse to the bathroom. 24 is a chicken house. That was quite an experience. We first moved out there. Daddy built that chicken house, and the first thing he did, back then you could order chickens through the mail, and the postman had to deliver it, and they would come. I think he'd usually order about 2 boxes at a time, and the boxes were about a 3-foot square and probably 6 inches deep. But anyhow, just totally packed with little baby chicks, and we'd order them. They'd come and he'd put them out there, and they had done a deal that you run off of propane. You'd have to. It's called a brooder, I think. You'd have to try to keep them warm with that deal and get them to grow. And that was kind of a full-time job because you had to watch, make sure it didn't get too cold, and you had to put stuff in the water to make sure that it didn't get a bug, and then one chicken would start pecking on another, and if it drew blood, you had to get that chicken out of there because the rest of them would maliciously pick on him. So anyhow, that was not an easy process. I guess 25 was the 25 is a chicken house. 24 behind there is where the outhouse used to be. 26 is a source of a lot of problems too, because that's a chinaberry tree. And if you've never been around chinaberries, basically they're about the size of a marble, and they're real hard seed. And you can get in chinaberry fights just like you could in clod fights, and of course the clod fights was mostly between Ron and I, but the chinaberry fights, that kind of involved all four of us kids, and nobody was immune from the chinaberry chunking. Number 27 here was a big old garden. Daddy fenced it in. I don't know where's the garden or the place for the chickens to run. I know we never planted a garden in the garden area. Daddy would plant a couple of rows of beans and corn out in the field sometime, but never. We didn't raise anything here in the garden spot.